how much longer do you think 50% of school leavers are going to feel like they need to get a university degree for?
Right, okay. First of all, I'm going to caveat this. There are patently jobs... Okay, no, I have to do this. Okay. There are jobs like brain surgery,
yes,
okay, or advanced mathematics, or indeed law, where your education is part of what you practice, effectively. And I wouldn't want to relax educational standards for my brain surgeon or my proctologist or whatever. Okay, I'm not taking that risk. However, I spoke to someone who got a double first in maths from Cambridge who worked for an investment bank. And I asked him, how long after you started work did anybody care what maths degree you got? And he said it was about 3 to 4 years. After that point, no one cared. Who had you worked for? What had you done? So in some ways, the university degree for many, many jobs is a way of getting a great starting job. It's a way of getting a great start in life, but actually it's a proxy measure. And I'd also argue it's a dangerous proxy measure, actually, because I think it's one of these measures, do you have a degree, what degree class do you have, which is what I call a one-way measure. And I'll explain that, okay? If you've got a really good degree in maths, you're probably pretty intelligent and capable. Doesn't necessarily mean you're totally sane or capable of working with other people. In fact, that may be inversely correlated. Exactly, yeah. Okay. But if you don't have a degree, it's not safe to make the opposite assumption. So the example I always give is chess playing. If you're very good at chess, okay, you're probably quite clever in some specific regard, okay? But you couldn't say that bad chess players were thick. I mean, my brother's an astrophysicist and he can't play chess to save his life. Okay, it's not really a reliable measure except in one direction. And consequently, what we've done is we've made this degree a necessary hurdle or bottleneck through which everybody has to pass in order to enter sort of what you might call remunerative employment. And it's a terrible mistake. I think it leads to an incredible waste of talent. Some people are very good at solving abstract problems, for example. Other very capable and intelligent people can't stand working on abstract problems because they'd rather deal with something concrete. And I do worry about that. By the way, I'm not the only person. I mean, Scott Galloway, the podcaster, Michael Sandel, the Harvard philosopher, have both made the point that Ivy League degrees in the US are really luxury goods. In other words, the closest business comparison to Harvard might be Louis Vuitton. In other words, it's something that's very expensive to attain as a credential, and it's valuable precisely because of its scarcity. Now, things that are valuable because of their scarcity are actually slightly dodgy, if you want me to be frank. They're Fabergé eggs, they're luxury goods. Now, a very interesting guy called Fishkin, I think it's Joseph Fishkin, who's a UCLA law professor, makes a very interesting point, which is because of our need to establish equality of opportunity, we pay a hidden price. Because if you want equality of opportunity, by definition, you've got to impose the same criteria on everybody, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair. But when you impose the same criteria on everybody, what you're invisibly doing is you're narrowing opportunity. You're saying in order to be good at anything, you have to be good at this one particular thing. Now, Fishkin believes that we should actually optimize for what he calls plurality of opportunity. In other words, create a world in which lots of different people can be really successful in lots of different ways through lots of different paths to entry, rather than what we've done at the moment.
Absolutely. And it strikes me that that's the employer's fault. That I think a lot of employers have said the only way in which we're going to look at you is if you have any or a degree. It sort of doesn't matter what. I take your point about being
and
a neurosurgeon.
2-1 or above.
Ridiculous.
First of all, it's led to ridiculous grade inflation. Google actually did the work and found there was no correlation between people's degree class and their performance in the workplace some years later. It's lazy recruitment. Oh God, we've got to set an arbitrary kind of cutoff to reduce the number of applicants we consider 2-1 or above. Now, I work in advertising, which is an interesting business because it is a bit meritocratic, or it used to be, in that one of the most successful people in creative advertising was actually a motorcycle dispatch rider who made a delivery in an ad agency one day, thought it looked a bit interesting, and set out to try and get a job there. Another of the most successful people started in the post room. There were still sort of chin-stroking Oxbridge types kicking around. That's fine, okay? But what's patent if you work in a business like advertising, which isn't really credentialist traditionally, is you realise that actually really valuable talent can come from anywhere.
Well, I wonder then whether fundamentally we have too many universities, whether one day they'll reduce in number.
Well, there's an invisible problem when Tony Blair set that apparently admirable target, okay, which is that 50% of people would go to university. First of all, university went from being an option to an obligation.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people ended up going to university who didn't really want to, but they felt that you would be disadvantaged in life if you didn't. And in the process, by the way, ended up accumulating a whole heap of debt. It's not as if property isn't expensive enough in London without having debt as well for the younger generation. And also, it very unfairly stigmatised people who didn't go to university. I think it almost put a badge over the heads of people who hadn't been.